I'm Scott Al Miller. It is Saturday night, and we're going to do a live stream. I have been very sick. I had bronchitis. It's kind of turned into pneumonia, and so I am here suffering through and don't have a lot of time to get the show done. So, since I've not had any spare time, been very sick, and had to run a lot of errands today, I had to go out to the beach twice, just running errands for people, and had to take an extra nap and such because not feeling that great. Going to do some Q&A today. Really going to try to keep this to about 30-35 minutes. The time flies by. It doesn't take much to end up using all that time. So not a hard one, but don't want to get people's hopes up that we're going to be going for a long time. Nope, just doing a short one this week for sure. So how's everyone doing? We're just setting up, going to jump over and see what Q&A we've got lined up for us today. D. Gilbert, late one today. Yes, I know. It's been just an incredibly busy day, and it's a little bit tough with being as sick as I am. So trying to get through it. I actually don't have the air conditioning on, so I'm sitting out here doing the show. Normally, I've got the door open, but it's way warmer in here than it is outside because there's no pass-through air, so that's a little bit rough. Janet's on. Oh, thank goodness, she says. Luke says, hola, y'all. This is going to be a quick one this week. We're not going to go for long. I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons with my kids. Finally, it was supposed to start this morning, and then there were so many interruptions that we weren't able to start until decently late, and they're taking a break to do school, and shortly I'm going to head back and hang out with them. We ordered in some pizza and having kind of a relaxing evening. Again, I have bronchitis that's turned into pneumonia. I'm not feeling too bad. I feel like I'm on the other side of it, but I'm not in the best shape. What's the best way to get this gecko out of my room? I don't want to open the windows because of the mosquitoes. You don't want to get a gecko out of your room. They live in your room. This is Nicaragua. That's how it works. Even in Texas, we left them in the rooms. We were there. We had to be careful because they would run across the carpeting. But here, they're not on the floor, really. So you just leave them. They're supposed to be there. Every room should have 10 geckos. At any given moment, I can normally see 3 running around. In here, I've probably got 15 to 20 that live in this room. Today we had a ton of earthquakes up north. Ricardo Fonseca says, I felt something here in California today. All right, I'm going to put some response notes in there. Geckos are really cool, and they're considered good luck. They are an important health thing because they do eat the mosquitoes. They have no negative problems. They have no risks, and then they're just cool. They're neat. So the expectation is you never disrupt them. You just leave them be always. They eat the bad stuff, and they make cute noises. And they keep other things away, right? One of the reasons we don't get lots of roaches and ants is because the geckos are eating them, right? Geckos are freaking awesome. My kids, even when they were little, they would sleep in Granada, and we had wood, like a cane roofing, and the geckos would run around at night. And my kids are terrified of bugs, all kinds of things. They know that geckos eat bugs. So even though geckos are these little lizards running around their room, at night they would say goodnight to all the geckos. They would go around the house and say that we had Gary the gecko that lived in the living room, and they would say goodnight to all the different geckos, and they would sleep. And they knew that the geckos in their ceiling that they could see were watching over them and helping to keep the bugs away. And so it was a funny thing that they handle like mammals and stuff in the yard without a problem, but insects and little things they really respond negatively to. They're okay with mice, but the geckos, they were totally like, oh my gosh, geckos. And we recently had basilisks in our toilets, and they just thought that was funny. They were, concerned that the basilisk had a good way out or whatever. They're concerned in that way, but not much. Dean Miller says Jamaica had one day before yesterday, I think a 4.5 maybe, so not that far away, and it runs along a shelf. Answering some of these things. Okay, so SCSC QZ7RR 7 hours ago, in response to yesterday's video Las Colinas Hotel Tour, Managua, Nicaragua, neat day. We did a tour of that hotel in the Las Colinas neighborhood, and they ask, are there places you can walk to, such as restaurants, stores, cafes, etc., or you have to have a car? Are there taxis you can take, or is Uber safe? What kind of transportation would you recommend if staying at this hotel? So, my dogs are, like I said, the outdoor door is open. It is a little bit warm between the studio lights and my hot office that has not been cooled down. Whew, feeling it, but I'm going to be heading back. I'm not going to be staying in here. Normally, I'm in here for a while, so I keep the room extra cooled a little bit for the show, because it really does warm up during the show. But I'm heading into a very air-conditioned room with the kids shortly. So Las Colinas, there are places you can walk, and walking the streets in Las Colinas is safe. I wouldn't consider it a neighborhood where it's like, walkable per se, but it is actually decently walkable and quite a bit more than Santo Domingo. So there are plazas all around. So specifically from this hotel, you can walk to a number of businesses. Not that you'd want to go visit random businesses, but there are many walkable, including NVO's Fast Track is right around the corner. There are probably a dozen restaurants, 10 to a dozen restaurants that are within a pretty easy walk without having to cross the highway. If you could cross the highway, there's another 30 within a walking distance, but I wouldn't do that. But in that little area. And then there's a couple plazas that are there, nothing big, but there's a few. So you got some cafes, you've got a little bit of shopping, mini marts, that kind of stuff. So it's like, would you go and be like, oh, I have everything I need to live in this area, I never need a car? No, but if you're like, I really just feel like walking to some places sometimes, would it suffice? Yes. So if you're staying in the hotel, one, you've got delivery, right? So if you want to eat in the hotel, you've got those nice spaces we showed. You can just have food delivered in, no problem, from basically anywhere in the city. But you can also, you can walk around as well. If you were to take a car, so we don't have Uber here, but we do have InDrive and Ray app. So they work like Uber, more or less. So you can use those. We generally don't take a taxi because the whole process is very difficult. The hotel could call a taxi for you. It's a nice hotel, so just have them deal with that. But typically you'd use the Ray app or whatever and just use that. That is what I would recommend there in that area. If you don't have a private driver or a taxi that that's exactly what I would do. And it's very safe, right? Even the regular taxis without the protection of those extra things, no one ever hears like horror stories of taxis. You hear like someone getting overcharged or something, but nothing dramatic. But use those apps and keep yourself protected. And it's a great area, right? One of the reasons that I would love to live in Las Colinas is because I like to walk places, and you can get to a number of things, and a lot of those daily things, like just going to the mini mart, I want to pick up some soda, grab a beer, need some bread, whatever, very easy. There are some of the restaurants there quite nice. There's a real close to that places. I know there's a famous soup restaurant. Plus, I think you could walk to the big Peruvian place, a Mexican place, a couple cafes. Like there's a bit. Go to Huacapico 467 says, why couldn't the left butt cheek hear the right butt cheek? Because it was too far away. Okay. Morris Adams is here. You live in Leon, but in a past video you said your favorite city was Matagalpa. That is correct. I do live in Leon. Matagalpa is my favorite city. What all do you like about Matagalpa? If we end up going to Nicaragua, we'll most likely live there due to the climate. So Matagalpa, I definitely like the climate far better. I'm not a hot weather person, although I'm certainly not a snow person, right? I grew up in New York and never want to ever go through that again. I love New York in the spring and fall. It was a wonderful place to live. Absolutely fantastic. The food, the produce, the wine, it's just a great place. But the summers are brutal, worse than here, and the winters are insane. Case in point right now, right? Everyone's talking about my hometown places. My wife's from the Syracuse area. I'm from the Rochester area. Like, we know snow and bitter cold. Not fun at all. I don't want to deal with that. So I don't want that, but I will take the hot weather of Leon over that anytime. No problem whatsoever. But I would prefer cooler weather. Places like Ireland, Galicia, like perfect weather for me, right? If I had to wear a fleece and jeans, maybe a hat, if it was cold and drizzly all day, every day, no problem. I'd be happy as a clam. So for me, Matagalpa is closer to the temperatures that I would like. And that's one of the reasons why Guatemala is so high on my list, is because Guatemala has the weather that I like while still being in the cultural area that I like. So that's a big deal, and I totally get that. Matagalpa, for me, that climate is huge. Also, Matagalpa is a much larger metro area than Leon. Leon's the bigger city, but Matagalpa is the larger metro. And you feel that. It's also farther away from Managua, which is not necessarily a positive in the general sense, but it has, because it's farther away, it's more self-sufficient. So everything you need is available in Matagalpa. In Leon, we can commute to Managua. It's under 2 hours on public transportation for under $3. So you can just do that, right? So we go to Managua at the drop of a hat for everything, which is great. We have all the resources of Managua. That's pretty nice. But that means a lot of things don't make sense in town, even though we're a big city, biggest city in the country other than Managua. So Matagalpa, even though it's smaller as a city technically, tends to have better grocery stores, better shopping, right? It just has more within its city limits, so you spend more time in your own community. You get a more urbane experience. It feels more like a city than Leon by quite a bit. It's not colonial, so you're not stuck with that old colonial construction, and you get to have more modern buildings. You have more flexibility in building. You have a cheaper infrastructure, more reliable infrastructure. Sorry about the pneumonia. Wow. This is day 5, I think. And then the city has mountains. Leon is basically flat. It's not flat, but it's basically flat. You don't see one part of town from another part of town. But in Matagalpa, you do. You've got the city sprawling up the mountains. You got it down by the river. And I love that mountainous urban landscape. It's just beautiful. You got twinkling lights places. Leon, you get none of that. You see the building next to you anywhere in the city. Just that's it. And that really takes a lot of the fun away of a city. So you combine modern urban architecture, more or less, in Matagalpa with this mountainous terrain and this denser urban population. And then come to Leon, and it's flat, it's colonial, and not urbane. And you're like, oh, yeah, I see it. It feels very different. It's much more villagey. For me, those are important things for me. Whew, talking is hard. At times, I'm good for a while, and then let's make this a little bit easier. At times, I'm good for a while, and then sometimes I'm just hacking up a lung like crazy. I don't feel as bad as I did for the last few days, so I may sound worse, but I think I'm doing better. Eddieman, hard to say, says, I'm here in Esteli. Beautiful people, beautiful city, very safe. Unfortunately, this isn't the best place to get a massage. I've only had one massage in my life. I tried to avoid it. I just, not a thing, like, I'm autistic, right? And I don't have touch aversion like a lot of people who are autistic do, but the idea of a massage sounds awful to me. It sounded awful my whole life. Early in 2025, a friend paid for me to get a massage, had a masseuse come to the house. I'm like, oh, I felt obligated. So I did it, and it was absolutely awful. It hurt. I felt awful for weeks, maybe more. Never again. I would never get a massage again. So I'm the last person to know where to get a massage, but I'm really shocked that getting a massage in Esteli was hard. Everywhere I know, it's quite easy to get one. He says, I was hoping to get a cheap massage for sciatic problems, but neither Esteli nor Matagalpa. And Managua got lost at night in a sketchy neighborhood at night with a big backpack and $700 in cash. Yeah, don't do that. Some guy asked me for money, but I only had big bills. I just said I can't now and walked away. If he was a thief, he was a very friendly one, spoke English too, but was looking pretty homeless. Yeah, it's not too many homeless in Managua. It could happen, right? It's not zero, but it's very low. That he spoke English, very little chance that he was homeless. Oh, right, Janet? Ew, I would hate a massage. It was awful. It hurt. No part of it was enjoyable in any way. Like, I can't believe that people are willing to do it, let alone get excited about it. And most people I know like it, so I'm missing something. But like, they describe it and it's like, ooh, this sounds awful. And then I tried it, it was awful. It's kind of like Fight Club. Does it sound fun? No, not actually. People who do it sound very excited, right? Oh man, it's such a rush. Okay, I get it. That's, yeah. Does it sound like fun? No. I'm confident getting punched in the face, not fun. Could be wrong, but massage comes across exactly the same to me, and I would give that to be the experience. Both Esteli and Matagalpa, I'm pretty sure I could find a massage for someone right now. Like in Matagalpa, I bet within 30 minutes I could have a masseuse for somebody. I know here in Leon, I have plenty, right? Easy to do. In Granada, I know I've got a contact to get one in Granada. So I don't know why those places would be hard. I would expect them, if anything, to be easier. Well, Granada may be a little bit easier because of the foreigners, but I can't believe that those were hard. And Managua should be super easy. How I would ask, he's not on the live, so how did you end up walking around with a backpack in a sketchy neighborhood at night in Managua? What did you do to get in that situation? I guarantee the answer will be don't do that, but I'm wondering what it was that created that situation. Managua is far safer than people give it credit for, but it's still a large capital city, and at night with a backpack and $700, don't walk around anywhere in Nicaragua. That's a lot of money for anybody. Luke says Matagalpa, non-seismic area, no risk of volcano activity, no tsunami, only flooding risk pending on exact location from rain. Just to be clear, Leon doesn't have any seismic fears, even though we're in a major seismic zone. We don't have any volcano activity that we're afraid of. It's just interesting to watch. And we do not get tsunamis in the city. So all those things are true about Matagalpa, but it makes it sound like Leon has some panic. We do not. D. Gilbert says, Scott, we were looking into the international baseball games with Cuba. I tried to look for tickets on Toto Ticket, but couldn't find them. Any chance you'd know more? I will have to ask. I know you can buy them at the stadium. That's how we have to do it here. None of our tickets here are sold at Toto Ticket. They're all sold at the stadium. So I'll have to ask. Dennis Tyler, can an American citizen collect their Social Security in Nicaragua? Of course, but you never do. Right? That's a strong statement. You almost never do. You collect it in the U.S. because you're an American and you have the right to do so. And then when you need money in Nicaragua, you move things to Nicaragua. The general answer for banking, which is really that this is a specific banking question within a general thing, but we can back up to a general thing. When you move to a new country, you don't bank in a new country, or you don't do most of your banking in a new country. Nothing wrong with having a bank account. No, nothing wrong with doing some banking in a new country. That's all fine. But as a person so I'm an American coming from the United States. My income comes from the United States. My bank accounts are in the United States. My investment accounts are in the United States, and so forth. You don't move those, right? You moving to a new country does not imply, hint at, or suggest in any way that you would move your banking. There's cases where you would move your banking, right? Your banking's terrible and you found a better situation. Okay, that could be worth it. But that would be extremely rare, especially coming from someplace like the U.S. with strong banking. And especially coming from someplace like the U.S. where you're pulling Social Security. That Social Security is going to source from the U.S. No matter what you do. This is obvious, but this is important to say. No matter what you do, the source of that Social Security will always be American. So going to Nicaragua will always be an extra leap that you don't need. So have it go into an American bank account. And if you need that money in Nicaragua, presumably you will, some of it, maybe all of it, unlikely. Expats always think they need a larger percentage in country than they actually do. There's all kinds of things that you don't move your money for, right? If you're gonna do shopping on Amazon, which is how Nicaraguans buy things, right? U.S. shopping is part of the Nicaraguan ecosystem. Every Nicaraguan wishes their money was already in the U.S. so they could get easier shopping in the U.S., cheaper shopping in the U.S. So you don't want to move your money to Nicaragua, then move it back to the U.S. to get products into Nicaragua. That's extra steps you don't have to do. Avoid steps. Unless a step is necessary, don't take it. That's a general financial rule. Right? Don't shuffle money for shuffling's sake. There needs to be a very clear goal. If you're buying property or something, often those transactions happen outside of Nicaragua. Having your money in the United States or Canada is often highly beneficial, or at least neutral. If you do need your money in Nicaragua, move it later, right? No harm, no foul. There's an extra step, but it's not a step that costs you money. Basically, don't opt to make things complicated. Keep them simple. That's all you need to know. If you had to shut down all your American bank accounts, I don't know why you would ever do that, but if you did, can your Social Security be sent to another country? Yes, it can. That is the law. You're all done? Oh, okay. That is the law. So just because you're in a different country, it doesn't matter that it's Nicaragua, you can get your Social Security, period. That's just how Social Security works. But the idea that you would want to have it sent to that country, that's where there's a breakdown. Because while it's your right to do so, it's also essentially never wise to do so. Luke says, yes, I'm currently collecting SSDI and VA comp. Then it says, thank you. I don't know. There's some countries that it's not allowed. Only sanctioned countries is it not allowed, right? Cuba, Iran, places like that. Not countries that you're allowed to go to. Alan says, I love massages. Beverly says, I don't like massages either. See, I mention it, and we're coming out of the woodwork. All of us who absolutely hate massages are like, speak up. Finally, we feel free to say something. Luke says, you keep your money direct deposits in the U.S. and pull as needed. Dennis says you can't use Medicare, I believe. That's different because Medicare is, one, not yours, right? Social Security is yours, so it's protected by laws very differently than other things. Medicare is kind of yours, but it's not yours like Social Security. So Medicare, you have certain rights to. It doesn't go away, but you can't. But the Medicare is you can use it at American and affiliated hospitals. Right. Now, the affiliated can go pretty broad. You can use it in Panama, for example. You can use it in Costa Rica, I think. The issue here is that there isn't a Medicare-associated hospital here. So it's not that you lose Medicare. You don't have any less Medicare. You're just in a spot where it's more difficult to use it. But you can go to a spot where it's easier to use it should you want to. But then the question would be, why would you want to? Medicare only pays for facilities you wouldn't want to use generally. And here, there's no need for Medicare, as Boink points out, because healthcare is free in Nicaragua. Now, there's also paid private healthcare that's often better or more comfortable, at least. But the public healthcare here is extremely good, far, far better than the U.S. Right now, if you're comparing it to like the public in Colombia or something, of course, yeah, we're lacking a little bit, but not very much at this point. Even there, we've caught up significantly. But compared to like the U.S., of course, we're worlds ahead of there. Given that it is free for public, there isn't even a mechanism for paying in public. That's a big deal. And when you want to pay private, it's so incredibly inexpensive that many people just opt for that because the convenience, the scheduling, the control of your care and such is often worth it. I know I've done both. Would certainly choose private most of the time, depending on the issue. If it's a minor issue, we don't even leave the neighborhood. We just go to the local hospital, which is an dinky little thing here in the back street, but they do a great job. Absolutely professional, wonderful people, get us in and out very quickly. I can't even fill out the paperwork for a heart attack, and I mean that literally. I can be in and out with getting full like getting cleaned up, vaccines, paperwork done, everything without going through the ER here in Sutiava for a cat bite faster than I can get someone to, and I mean this literally, and if you include the entire process, by hours, but even just once you're in the right hospital, the difference was easily 30 minutes longer to get someone to go, oh, you're having a heart attack? I think we should do something about that. Right. The difference here, if we've dealt with heart attack and stroke issues at a hospital here, you go from wheeled in the door to under care of a physician, 2 minutes. US, 40, 45 minutes, easy. Like that's a big deal. So it's a very different financial situation. Yes, it would be great if Medicare could be used here. That would be a bonus. I'm going to use that for my private healthcare. Excellent. Heading to Vivian Pellis for every checkup. Slap my Medicare on that. That would be nice, right? I'm on board. But it's not as bad as it's not a problem that you would think. The Sandinistas have quality medical care and education priorities for sure. Those are huge priorities of the government here. And now, and someone, of course, someone posted that they had a fire at the old hospital here, and they're like, "Oh, someone needs to replace that hospital. I can't believe they used that old hospital." We're like, it was empty because we did replace it. We have the biggest, nicest hospital in Central America is here in Leon. That's why no one was in that hospital. That's why it caught on fire, because no one was there. Right? They were just doing maintenance or something because there was nobody in. All right. Well, those are some good questions, and I'm glad we were able to answer them. We're actually just at 25 minutes, and a little bit on the short side. I am hacking up a lung here, so I'm a little bit under the weather. I apologize for being sick. I shouldn't have to feel sorry for being sick. I'm not actually sorry. It sucks that I'm sick for everybody. So, but my kids are all done with the things they had to do. They are waiting for me to jump back in and play Dungeons and Dragons with them. We are working our way through a beginner adventure to learn the mechanics of the new system. We're playing the 2024 D&D 5.5 rules. And once we've kind of gotten that under our belts, we're going to get a real group together here. I know Alan is champing at the bit to get into a group. He's been hearing about it and wondering what it's really like. So, Alan, we're going to get you in. We're just figuring out what game we're going to play locally and trying to get past this learning curve, which is coming pretty well. So hopefully, I'm really looking forward to starting a real campaign with a number of people. It is, for those who've never played, it's not a game you want to play with 2 people. I'm playing with just my 2 kids. You really want, like, 4. Is much better. I'm a Drunk Guy is here. Greetings from Indiana. Can't wait to get back to Hinotepe. Hope you feel better quickly. Thank you. I think I'll be, like, 2 more days. I'll probably be pretty good. Have I ever driven to the USA and back to Nicaragua? I've not. I would totally do that, except I won't cross into the US anymore. But I would go to the border and help people drive, because that sounds like freaking fun. I have gone by bus as far as halfway through Guatemala, right? So not far from the Mexican border from here. So I've done all of Central America. Like I've driven most of Panama. I've driven from southern Costa Rica, contiguous to northern Guatemala, but I've not done Mexico. I've not driven across Mexico. I've driven all over the U.S. in the past. So I have a lot of pieces, but never done that as a single thing. But that sounds super fun. I would love to film that. If I had the time and someone else was picking up the tab for the trip, would I head to Tijuana or some other crossing point and drive all the way to even Panama City just to say we did? Yeah, I would totally do that. That would be super fun. But before that, Luke and I need to drive out to Bilwi and film that for you guys. And with that, thank you so much for joining us. Remember, if you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee, buymeacoffee.com/ScottAllenMiller. Give a thumbs up on the show. There's only a few of us here, but I really thank everybody for your Saturday night support. And I'm expecting by Monday, I'll probably be feeling quite a bit better.